Welcome back to Jove's Ditch Your Dorm podcast. This is Alex, and today I have a very special guest, Tyheim, who is an alumni of Cabrini University. Tyheim, what's going on? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me today.
Yeah, this was
All
awesome.
right.
When we were talking earlier, I got to know Tyheim a little bit, and I think you have a lot of knowledge to share with students. I know initially you were saying you're kind of a novice going into renting, and that by the end of it, you were a vet. So why don't we start off? Can you give us a little bit of background on your overall experience in college, what you did, extracurricular activities?
Yeah, so at my time at Cabrini, you know, as long as I was a student athlete, I was also no, I'm sorry, as I was a student, I was also an athlete as well. In my time at Cabrini, it was many ups and downs. I would say like any college student would have. I just think me playing a sport and being a student was even tougher. And even when it came to, added on the responsibilities of also looking for off-campus housing, it was even tougher. So it was a lot of work.
Hmm. Yeah. So what um, I'd like for you to share your experience with other students, with mainly freshmen and sophomore that have never rented. Um, Can you talk about, so what were your expectations? You went to Cabrini, that's near Radnor. What's it like living off campus around there?
Living off campus around there, it's great because of the area. If Radnor is a great place to be. Especially in PA. It has a lot of history, and then it's a very expensive place to be. So that overall right there is great. And on the side of a college student though, it's tough, living in Radnor because just finding good pricing is so hard. And then on top of being a college student, a lot of people, they don't want to rent their place to a college student because of the area. It's so nice that they don't want to just give it to a college student because their first thought is, oh, they're going to trash the place up, parties and this and that.
Hmm,
So that right there, it made it so tough to even find a place off campus around Radnor, PA.
gotcha. Did the school help you at all in finding off campus housing, or how was their response to that?
So the school, they didn't really have any like off-campus housing situations for us. They did have a list of housing opportunities, but the list was sometimes it was outdated. It was some of the landlords, they weren't even offering the place anymore, which, as I said, it was outdated. So that
Hmm,
was tough. So you basically had to go off of the list and try the other apps like Zillow, Trulia, and as a college student, you already have so much on your plate, so it's so hard to manage your schoolwork, and then on top of me being a student athlete and looking for off-campus housing. So it was a tough task.
gotcha. How did you go about? Well, let's start this. Um, what year were you in when you first started renting off campus?
When I first started, all right, so let me see. It's feel like some time back now. It was the exact year. It was 2015, 2016 was my first, I would say, me looking.
Hmm.
Yeah, so 2015, I want to say.
Got it.
And in 2015, it was tough because I was so young. I went in with the knowledge, oh, it's just rent. It's just finding a place. It should be easy, And
Mhm.
then me growing up in the city, I was just know it's so easy to find places in the city, and I had to shift my mindset as to this is the county now. It's a lot different than the city. Where there's so many different housing opportunity. Where in the county, a lot of the residents in a lot of counties, especially Radnor, they've been here so long, so they don't really just give up their houses or rent it out. So it's really hard to find a place, especially as a sophomore in college. It was a lot because it's just you go in with the mindset as you're a little arrogant. I know this, I know that, I can find
Mhm.
something. And then it's just like it's a reality check. So
Right.
yeah.
So when did you, how early did you start looking the first time around?
The first time around, I started looking late. I believe it was March. I want to say it was March, and It was really late. So basically, all the housing opportunities to actually look for a house, it was kind of past due because a lot of landlords they want you to move in time ahead so they can get that the rent money. You know that they can actually see that you're you know responsible, reliable. You know to actually keep up with the place. So the only thing that was open for me to find my sophomore year was apartment buildings.
Hmm. And
So when,
yeah. How far off campus
no,
was that apartment building?
The I want to say it was about 15-minute, 20-minute commute. 15, 20, I want to say. That might have been the farthest commute I had in my years of college.
And that's 15 minutes driving.
15 minutes driving, yeah, and that's another big thing in the Ratner community. If you don't have a car or access to a car, it's really hard to get around. It's almost impossible, it seems like, because there's no sidewalks. Uh, it's a bunch of it's just a bunch of roads, so it's kind of tough just to get around without a car.
Gotcha. So if you're living off campus, you definitely need a car.
Yeah, if you're living off campus, you definitely need a car, unless unless you set up a situation with a bunch of friends and y'all you know get in a car together and go ahead to
Mhm.
school. But then everyone's schedule is different, so it's hard to really do that as well. So it's kind of like you need a car. You really need a car, or you find yourself really in so many different situations, and that can sometimes become overwhelming on top of your schoolwork. So I feel
Mhm.
like as a college student, you shouldn't have that responsibility, worrying about, a car, your schoolwork, on top of paying rent. So it's tough.
Yeah, agreed. So you started looking for your first place in March. I think that was the last time you made that mistake. When would you recommend students to? What's the ideal time for a student to start looking for a place?
The sooner the better. But if I was to give an exact month, or I would say, so school is usually over in May. Uh, Most places want you to, really move in by, almost like July. Some places even June. So you should start looking really in that December of your first semester, right when first semester is about to end. I would say that's probably the best month to start looking.
Gotcha. Okay. And then let's talk about your experience with roommates. How did you go about finding your roommates, and what kind of advice would you have for students that are trying to decide who they're going to live with a year from now, essentially?
So the roommates with me is a different situation because I played basketball at Cabrini, so it was a little bit easier, to know people off of the strength of just playing basketball. So I found my roommates from basically playing basketball, and I didn't know them that well enough to say, oh, let's go ahead and just move in together. But as a college student, you get sometimes caught in that. Well, I need roommates, and this is what we need, and if you guys can handle this, then let's be roommates. It's that simple. And it's tough because then you have to, it's not just about you anymore. And then to go in depth with, your with rooming with someone, you have to worry about now. It's your credit can be affected. Just is a lot of stuff that we wouldn't think of. That's almost as a college student. It's like I'm not here to really think about this,
Mhm.
which makes it tough. And when when picking your roommates, I would say pick your friends. That's just something I would say. That's what most freshmen would say. But it's good to get outside of your comfort zone because it's so hard to stay friends with people that you're around so much. I've seen friends, break off and not become friends anymore, and have just little issues that they didn't have before, and they just didn't know that because they haven't been so close around each other so much. So when picking your roommates, I would really say, be wise about it. Really, really want to get to know the person. And if not, go find somebody that you don't really know like that, but have the same, desires or the same ambition as you. And just even like study schedules, because that's big. If you're rooming with somebody that likes to party all day and then you're real strict on your work, it probably wouldn't work out. Even though that's your friend and you've known them for so long, you should really take that into consideration when moving in with them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely great advice. And you've had a lot of different roommate situations. You were telling me that in one place you roomed with three people, another place it was six, another place it was one. Um,
Yeah.
so out of those, what was a healthy number of roommates and why?
A healthy number, I would say, healthy number would be one. But in terms of just finding financially and everything, I would say three is enough. Three is a good number. It wasn't too bad, but we had our problems, but it was good though.
All right. Um, you mentioned price being high. What was your expectation going in of what you thought it would cost to live off campus?
Going in, around about $1,200 maybe for a two-bedroom. That's probably like, that's not too bad. It's 600 each. It's not the best deal, but I feel like in the area, I was like, oh, that's a good deal. I can do that. Not do that like completely, but I can make some things happen and work with that. And then I started looking, or me and my friends started looking, and it was 2,400, 2,200. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This now we're talking, actually that's like 1,100 each, 1,200 each person, and it's like, well, now that's a lot of money, especially me coming from, the inner city. I didn't really have the money to even kick out that much money, for a place, let alone, and then on top of that, having a car too and insurance, it's a lot, you know.
Yeah, you were dealing with a lot in college, having to pay more than expected for the place, having to get a car, deal with that, being a student athlete, especially with the basketball program there, and then and you also had a couple of jobs. What were you doing for work while you were in college?
So I worked at the gym. It was probably the best place for me to work. I was able to, get schoolwork done, work out, and just go right to class. If I had to take a shower at the gym, it was all possible. So that was probably, the best job I had. But I also, I needed more money, more hours because I had rent. I went and I worked at Home Depot first.
Okay.
So I was at Home Depot. I was there for the longest. I was at Home Depot for the longest. I was there, but then the hours I was working from like 6 a.m. sometimes 2:30, and that's almost that's a little tough to do. 6:30 to 2:30 every day on top of practice and school. And you still have to sleep. So that was a lot. And then I worked at a supermarket.
Mhm.
About my senior year, I worked at a supermarket, and I worked overnight with that one. I said, you know what? Let me try overnight because it might be easier for me to, get work out the way and then go to class. But then I started noticing it started taking a toll on my body when it came to me playing basketball with practice and stuff. I had to have my legs under me, and I'm not sure if you're real familiar with basketball, but you need your legs for basketball. I'm out there tired. You see it all in my face. I look uninterested. It was tough. It was definitely a learning experience, but like I said before, I'm glad I went through what I went through because it helped me shape become the person I am today.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's a that's a great learning experience. What kind of advice would you give to college students that are thinking about getting a job during college? What have you found to be the best type of job that's conducive to a college student's schedule and workload?
well, I feel like each college student is different. But I would say you want to find a job that's real. I wouldn't say because there's a lot of jobs that are lenient, but you want to find a job that really respect that you're a student first. It's hard to really find jobs like that. And then with the pandemic and everything that's going on, I know it's going to be even tougher because a lot of jobs want to get their economy, back and running. So they're going to expect a lot from, workers. And I just want college students to understand that, yeah, you're there to work because you need the money, but also know the bigger picture. You're using this job as a stepping stone versus a forever type of thing. For some students, they might find a job where they can keep moving up, and you never know. But a majority of students, I would say, find jobs just to help their individual needs for the moment being versus long term. So find a job that really puts your school first. Understand if some days you might really be tired and you can come in and it's tough to say this, but well, I've been up all night studying, I have a big exam. They might let you leave early. You should find a job that's real understanding of that.
Got it. Yeah, that's great advice. Um, let's talk about because you lived in three different types of situations, both in different roommates and also different landlords. Um, what should students be thinking about when they're thinking about a private landlord where they're renting from one person or one of the large companies like an apartment complex? What are some of the, like, what do you think is better? And then from there, like, what are the pros and cons?
Okay. So me personally, I would say private, especially being a college student, because you have the room to, to talk to the landlord, privately and let him know what's going on, your situation at the time being. Some landlords are real cool. You know what? If you guys can pay such and such right now and then give me the rest later without even get hit with like late fees or anything like that, I would say private.
Mm,
And then for corporations, apartment buildings, and I would say if you're one of those people that rather, anytime you have a problem, if you're the type of person that's always calling for a problem or something like that, you should do corporate because they'll come out on time. They have everything there for you, just about. But I would say a con with corporate is, they expect their money on time. Is no, because they usually go through a portal, so they don't really do individual needs as much as a private landlord, I would say. So you should really take in consideration what type of person you are. How is your fund set up? Because if you're not really worrying about the money at the time, and you can really just go ahead and, oh, I can just keep paying. I would say corporate. It's more of a comfortable type of living lifestyle as a college student. But in terms of if you know that you're not really financially that stable, but you're working hard and you're getting the money and so forth while you're in school, I would say private. Just because there's so many different, I want to find the right word. There's so many different like outlooks of having
mhm.
a private landlord versus a corporate. So I think that's really important when breaking down which landlord I would choose.
Great advice. Um, in terms of making payments, um, when let's say you're already renting the place, how are the large companies usually paid? You mentioned a portal. Is that usually the way you just submit your money through a portal?
Yeah, usually, my experience, it was usually a portal. They have a website where you can just send the payments right through, which it's easier, and then nowadays a lot of us, especially everybody in the world, just about use some type of digital way of payment. So I think the portal is easier versus from my experience, I had private and I had both, but the private they wanted us to drop a check off to them. Now you have to worry about as college students. Now you got to worry about managing your money on top of paying them. So now you write them a check and it bounce. Now
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game now. Like now he's really mad and a little embarrassed too. His check just bounced, and then it can cause so many different, it can go into like the courts or something like that, if it's situations like that. So the check can be, it can be iffy, but sometimes, if that's the only way, then you have to make it work. I know now as I'm getting older, I'm noticing, just have, different bank accounts for different things. As a college student, it was one account and I use it for everything.
Mhm.
So I'm like, look, we writing this check right here, and I gotta just not spend this amount of money. I had to, I was, even putting into your savings as a college student, you so many transfers all day that it's almost impossible to really track down my expenses with in order and including my landlord. So writing a check was tough, but it was the only way. So we had to really, just suck it up and just make it happen. The portal, though, on the other hand, it was a lot easier. But like I said before, if you don't have all the money at the time, it's hard to really have that conversation with the landlord and really explain what's going on.
Mhm. Got it. Um, so speaking of coming up with the money up front, let's talk about the signing of the lease. What should students expect when they're signing a lease? How much are they putting down? Like what's involved and how early do you have to do it?
All right, so again, depending on if you're going with a private or a company, but usually a corporation, usually it's first security and last month. Security deposit is usually up to 1 month's rent, And for college students, they mainly charge us, or charged, charged me and my friends the whole first month's rent. So if our rent was the 24, we had, the security deposit was 24 plus the last month. So you should really look into that when choosing which route you'll go. And I know sometimes if you have like a cosigner or something like that, you can the rent probably be about like 500 security deposit, but you still have the first and last month's rent. It's a lot cheaper, but it depends which way, which route you go, in terms of like, a co-signer or you doing it on your own.
Got it. And for the people that that don't know yet, what is a cosigner on a lease?
Oh, so a co-signer is basically, let me break it down. So if you're not, like as college students, a lot of us didn't have, the really a credit established for yourself. So, the landlord wants to know that you're going to be responsible, or it can rely on you paying the monthly, rent each month. So the co-signer is where it comes in at, where they have more of a, usually your parents, they have more of a, I would say, a history of, making payments, or more, they're more established basically. So they'll go with the co-signer that because they're more established and they can help you out better in the college, and they know that you have somebody that if you can't pay, then we can reach out to them and they can maybe help you, or so forth.
Got it. So essentially, your parents or guardians are on the hook in case you miss
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And so they have to sign the lease as well, and then you have to sign the lease. And how long is the usual lease term?
So a lot of landlords want to charge, they want the full 12 months. They just, you would think because college, so you can find some that maybe do a shorter time period, but in my experience, we had the full 12 months. So that's when we first signed a contract in, what is it? If we signed it in June, we had it until the following June. They want that reinsurance.
Mm-hmm. Does that present any problems for students having a 12-month lease?
It really do, because you're stuck at school for however many months you're there, and then you just jump right out. And when school is over, you want to go home. You want to visit family. Go to the beach. It's summertime. You want to do all the fun things, and that can sometimes cause some type of disagreement, because some people may say, well, I wasn't here this many months, so why should I pitch in this much for an electric bill, or it's a bunch of problems like that. And that's why I said earlier about picking your roommates, because you should feel like, well, we had this agreement from the beginning, so even if you're not here or not, this is our place, so we all should just keep pinching in. But some people mindset and the way you think is just way different than others. So when choosing roommates, that should definitely be important. And like I said, it's summertime coming. They just want to go home. They just want to leave. So that can sometimes become real difficult to handle with just bobbling with your roommates, and then some people just want to go home and they don't want to be there, so they feel like they don't have to pay certain bills. So that can become a problem.
Are there, have you seen any situations where a student, if they're going home, or let's say they're even studying abroad for a semester, they find someone to take their place?
Well, I haven't, in that situation, no, I haven't really got across that situation. But I did have a situation where, one of my roommates, they couldn't, really, uh, they had a lot going on back home, so they really couldn't stay for the time being. So they left, and we try to find somebody, but that far in the school year, it's hard to really move people in, unless you catch them when the first semester is over, where some people don't know if they can afford campus or not. But this was later on, so it was hard to really find somebody. So we all had to get together, and pick up his slack, until he can get back, and he was still pinching in, well, no, I'm not here, but I don't really have a lot right now, but I can do this, which was cool. And we all just, we helped each other, it was like brotherhood more than anything.
Mm-hmm. That's the importance of finding the right roommates.
Exactly.
Yeah. What kind of words would you use to describe how you felt when you were first looking for an apartment? I feel like a lot of students may feel a certain way, and they may feel like they're alone in this. How did you feel when you were looking for an apartment?
Uh, it was mixed emotions. I would say I felt, it was a proud moment. I would say, just to have my own, well, I'm out of my parents' house and I have like my own, I'm responsible, and then I would say, accountability, I'm sorry, tongue twister, accountability, you
Yeah.
know, uh, just to know that I had these responsibilities on top of this. And it just, and that goes into being proud as well. I would say ecstatic. It's just like, oh, like, I have my home off campus. I can do this, I can do that. We can throw parties. You can do whatever you want basically because you're off campus. And that was just something that was, a really big deal to me.
Cool. Any other type of advice that you would give to a freshman who's looking to rent an apartment next year for their sophomore year, or so a sophomore who's running for their junior year?
I I said earlier, make sure you pick, who you really want to live with, and make sure that it's the right people. Also, I would say don't really don't really beat yourself up about it because it's tough finding one. And a lot of people have been in the same situation as you. When you're just about to quit, just think about like this, like when you're about to turn your phone off and looking at the places, that next search you could have found something, so you just got to keep that hope alive. And that's what anything, even while you're in school, when you might not get a good grade, you might not like it, one of your teachers you might feel is, or one of your professors you might feel is harder on you than any other student, just always try to look at the bright side of things, and looking for, it's like the way I'm talking, it's like whoa, like it's this sound like a whole nother world, and it really is looking for an off-campus housing because you're competing against the real world too. So keep that in mind. So when you're looking at a place, you're looking at somebody that that maybe graduated college, just need a place to go. The credit score might be better, better job, all that stuff might happen. Just because you didn't find that one doesn't mean it's not another one available for you. So don't settle. I would say I wouldn't settle. That's, you don't want to have any what ifs. That's the biggest thing I would really take into when making any decision. So really take into consideration that you're going to have slumps, and it's just how you react to them is the way that things will work for you.
Well, Tahim, this has been amazing. Spoken like a true vet, and anyone who's who has no knowledge going in, hopefully you've learned something here. Tahim, thank you so much for sharing, and this has been another great podcast. I hope everyone listening has had some value in this, and make sure to tune in for more podcasts and as we share students' stories and also stories from property managers. Thank you.
All right.
Cool. I'll stop recording here in a sec.